If you're thinking about moving and you want to learn about what everyday life is going to be like in your new town, this is the place for you. On Open House, we sit down with local, top producing real estate agents to help you find the best places to live in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So if you don't want buyer's remorse and you want to find your dream town, we are here for you. So go ahead and book a free call with us and we'll help guide you to the area that is right for you. Now, let's jump in and learn about your new home.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Open House. I'm Zach, and today we're going to be talking about Norfolk, Virginia. MJ Huff is a local resident and expert in the area, so we're going to be talking about everything from homes to entertainment. MJ, thanks for coming on the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I want to know how long you've been an agent, because that's always good to know, and also what you love about living in the area.
Sure. I've been an agent for 25 years and been selling real estate in this particular area for the last 10 years. I think probably the thing I love the most about living in Norfolk is just the diversity. I think there's really something for everybody here. It's a college town, it's a Navy town. We have a little bit of urban, we have a little bit of suburban, we have a little bit of ocean, a little bit of bay. So I think no matter who you are, you can find something that you really like about the area for sure.
That's really cool. I've grown up around lakes, and the ocean was always a big deal to me. So having having both right next to each other is really interesting. What's the population of Norfolk?
The population is around 244,000 people right now in Norfolk.
Okay,
Kind of a small little area, actually. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so because you had mentioned it was city and suburban, I'm curious about how that's broken up.
Yeah. We have basic like suburban area with regular neighborhoods and shopping centers and Targets and Walmarts and those kinds of things. We also have a downtown area with tall buildings and more of an urban feel, and we have sort of like an area in Norfolk called Ghent, which is a little bit in between the suburban and the urban, and little boutique restaurants and local companies, but still a lot of historic property. So yeah, it's whichever one you're looking for, you can definitely find.
That's really cool. Well, and I'm seeing it's kind of broken up into almost into quarters, where you have 64 that comes, like northwest, and then it turns into 564 and just ends. What's up with that?
Yeah, so that basically ends right at the Norfolk Naval Station, which is the Navy base here in Norfolk. And you have 64, which runs, I think, west and east, and then 264 that runs east and west and north and south. So Norfolk actually, for commuting to really anywhere in the Hampton Roads area, is pretty centralized. It's kind of right in the middle. You could get out to Virginia Beach, Hampton, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, some of the other cities that surround Norfolk pretty easily. So the commuting is not bad depending on where you work in Hampton Roads.
That's really cool. I was going to ask about, how accessible it is, which kind of goes into some other logistics when people are looking to live somewhere, which would be what how much it costs to live there. What's the median home price?
Another great thing about the area is it's not overly expensive. You could pick up a single family home in the low 200s all the way up. I think our median sales price is probably somewhere around 275 to 300. So comparatively, looking at like DC or Baltimore or Richmond, which are the other cities along sort of on the eastern seaboard here, I think Norfolk is a very reasonably priced place to own a home. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad. Do you guys have majority of single family homes, or are there other like apartments and townhomes?
Yeah, we have everything. We have mid-rise, high-rise apartments. We have row houses, single families, condos, townhomes. We have newer construction, and we also have historic property that's 100 years old or more. So if you're looking for that historic charm, we definitely have that.
That's really cool. Well, and I was going to ask where those are located. Are those closer to the downtown area, or are they more spread out?
Yeah, so downtown and going north of downtown into Ghent, we're going to have more of like the historic property, homes that are anywhere from 50 to 100 years, or some of them are even older than that. We have row house, single family homes. And then as you move north into Ocean View, which is a little bit of like a beach area for Norfolk, the homes there are probably, not as old, built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, some 80s. And then there are other areas around the outskirts where homes are even newer than that. So, yep, we have homes in all the ranges as far as age goes.
Something for everyone. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's cool. That kind of makes me wonder what people do for work out there, because I know you had mentioned a naval base, and then I know that government jobs just in the DC area in general are pretty big. What are some other things that people do for work, and where do they commute to do that?
Yeah, so probably the biggest employer here is going to be the Navy. Norfolk Naval Station is actually the biggest Navy base in the world, and I believe
Wow.
there's probably 60,000 or so active service people assigned to that base. So that's a huge employer here. We have a lot of military. Um, we also have a lot of ship repair for the Navy. So a lot of military contracting. That's another big employer. We also have three universities. We have Eastern Virginia Medical School, EVMS, for medical. We have Norfolk State University and Old Dominion University. We have a lot of teachers and professors and things like that. A lot of doctors, because of the medical area is pretty big here. Centera Health in particular is one of the bigger employers. And then the shipyards, it's pretty common to meet people that work in the shipyards and do repairs on the ships when the Navy ships are being rebuilt. And for example, the new carrier, the Ford, was built right here in Hampton Roads. So I would say Norfolk, has a real like sort of a nautical feel to it, because we
Yeah.
do have the mouth of the Chesapeake is right here. We have the Atlantic Ocean to the east, and then the Elizabeth River to the south. So there's definitely a lot of industry surrounding, you know,
Water.
yeah, water, the Navy, nautical stuff, boating. So that's a big deal here.
That's really cool. I had no idea that the biggest naval base in the world was right where you're at. So
Yep.
learn something new every day. I'm curious about commute, for those that are, because you had mentioned it's pretty central. What's the average commute time for people if they're going to another city?
I used to live in DC, so in my experience, the traffic there is so horrible compared to here. I mean, I think you could pretty much get anywhere you need to go within 30 minutes here. Um,
Wow.
for example, we down in Virginia Beach, which is the city that neighbors Norfolk to the east, you can go from Norfolk to the boardwalk to the edge of the ocean within 30 minutes, pretty much any day of the week. So
Wow.
I wouldn't expect someone to have a commute that would be more than 30 minutes unless they're either living really far out or working really far out.
Yeah. So like Newport News, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, that's all within half an hour.
Yeah. One thing to think about is we do have two tunnels, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel and the Monitor Merrimack Tunnel. Both of those, one goes to Newport News, one goes to Hampton. That can be a little backed up, especially in the summer because of the vacationers coming down to vacation in Virginia Beach or the Outer Banks. We call it here the South Side and the Peninsula. The Peninsula's on the other side of the tunnels. Norfolk is on the South Side. So if you're on the South Side, yeah, the commute's going to be no problem.
That's cool. That's good to know, because I know people would rather not sit in their car 5 hours a day.
Yeah, they are building a new tunnel, so within a few years we're going to have more access to getting over to the peninsula. So it should be improving, but it's really not that bad.
Cool. You had mentioned colleges earlier. That kind of brings me into like family living and what it's like to to live there with kids. Speaking of schools, like what are some of the public schools that are available in the area, and do you have any other specialty schools or charter schools or anything like
Sure.
that?
Yeah, probably the two biggest schools in Norfolk are going to be Granby High School and Norview High School.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I think is outlined about the schools here, which is really kind of cool and interesting is that we have a lot of military influence on the kids of the military, and the ROTC programs are actually very alive and well here in Norfolk. So it's if you are a military family and you'd like your kids to be part of ROTC, it's very active here. We also have a lot of private schools, collegiate level, and religious schools, Christian, Catholic, Jewish. So definitely the schools, whatever type of school you're looking for, you can definitely find it in Norfolk for sure.
Cool. Variety seems like the name of the game out there. So that's a good thing to know going in. And, you know, speaking of variety, people do like a variety of things to do and entertainment. So let's say starting with family activities, you know, you have a couple kids, maybe a dog. Like, what are some things that families tend to do in the Norfolk area?
Yeah, so as far as families and kids, I know one of the things that's kind of popular here is the youth sailing programs. ODU actually has a youth sailing program where you go out and race on the little sailboats, and we also have a place in downtown called Nauticus. They have a little sailing club there, and you can join, and you can have your kids, or you could learn how to sail. I know that's kind of a big thing here is sailing.
What about like any sort of attractions or parks or anything like that?
Yeah. Again, I think Norfolk has a little bit of something for everybody. I know the city of Norfolk has built a lot of different parks. We have a couple skate parks for skateboarding. We have a botanical garden where you can go and look at flowers in season all year round. They have different programs. Let's see, but what else do we have for parks? Down in downtown Norfolk, we have Town Point Park, which is a place right on the water where they have a lot of festivals and events. We have Latin Fest, Greek Fest. One of my favorite ones is actually Harbor Fest, which is where a lot of the locals and people come out of town. They gather at the waterfront in downtown Norfolk, and the whole entire city and the military, the fire department, the police department, the Coast Guard, and then people that own local boats do what's called a parade of sails, where they just drive the boat past the carrier piers at the base and come all the way down to downtown Norfolk, make a U-turn and go back out. Everybody sits on the edge of waterside right down there where the water is, and they cheer, and you know it's kind of a big deal for us here in Norfolk, and it's a super fun event, and that's right there at Town Point Park.
That's sweet. Well, I was going to ask you about events because I know that that's typically what makes a community what it is. So that's a really unique festival that you guys do. Are there any other events that stand out, either holiday events or anything else?
I know there's a theater downtown called the Wells Theater, which typically will do the Nutcracker around Christmas and other shows and plays. We have a minor league baseball team.
Okay.
We also have an area near downtown called the Neon District, which is an arts district, and they're constantly having painting nights and displays, painting of local artists. We also have the Chrysler Museum of Art, which is right in downtown. Myself, I'm actually a music guy. We have a little venue here in Norfolk called the Norva, and it's a really small little venue where sort of up and coming bands will play. We really do have something for everybody. Another thing I'll mention is we have an area of Norfolk called Ocean View, which is along the northern edge of Norfolk, abutting the Chesapeake Bay. So the Chesapeake Bay dumps right into the Atlantic Ocean right here in Norfolk. And Ocean View is basically a community of mostly more probably condos and apartments and some single families, but great beach access. The beaches are rarely filled because a lot of the tourists are going over to Virginia Beach. So you sort of can have the beach to yourself. We also have a fishing pier there. And one of the restaurants that are my favorite is right there at the fishing pier. You can go fish off the pier, and there's a little restaurant and bar right at the foot of the pier. You can go in and have some seafood, and it's one of the best views of of the Chesapeake that we have.
That sounds really nice. I'm gonna have to check that out. And you mentioned seafood. What's the rest of the food scene like in Norfolk?
Yeah, I think Hampton Roads, which is made up of 7 different cities, I feel like Norfolk probably has the quirkiest and the most trend forward types of restaurants. Whatever you're looking for, you can find it. We have lots of Latin American cuisine. We have Italian. We have everything. Whatever you're looking for, you can find it here. The food's excellent.
Where's like your top 2 or 3 favorite places?
So there's a little area in downtown Norfolk called the Freemason area, and it's called the Historic Freemason area. And there's cobblestone streets and old historic property. There's one in particular that comes to mind called Omar's Carriage House. It was built around 1840 or so, but originally it was a carriage house where horse-drawn carriages would drive through, and they would lower hay down from a hay loft into the carriage, and then the horse and carriage would go right on through. Well, today it's a restaurant, and you can eat in the hayloft. It's not. It sounds not as good as it is. It's actually great. It's a little restaurant. You can eat upstairs. They still have the original hole in the ceiling where they would lower the hay down to the carriages. But it's a great restaurant. You got a little cobblestone street out front, very small, very intimate, great place for date night, something like that. Another place over in Freemason area is a Cure Coffee House, one of my favorite spots for coffee. They also serve adult beverages if you want to have a beer. So it's not just a coffee house. They also have open mic night. I think I was there recently. They had open mic night for bluegrass, and just a fun little coffee shop, quirky in the downtown area, sort of near the water, cobblestone streets. So yeah, there's a ton of great restaurants. I feel like there's breweries, at least in Norfolk, and super fun to go. Yeah, hang out, have a beer, meet people. Yeah.
Well, and this Freemason district does sound really interesting. Is there any other like historic part of Norfolk that is just really unique?
There's a place in downtown Norfolk called Nauticus, and it's basically I'll just say Navy/nautical museum. And anchored next to Nauticus is the battleship with the U.S. Wisconsin, which was one of the battleships that was in the Pacific Theater during World War II. That's anchored here. You can go to Nauticus. You can look at all kinds of cool Navy stuff, nautical things. They talk about the shipping channels and the big, huge cargo ships that come in. And you can also tour the USS Wisconsin, which I think is a super fun thing to do if you're here and hanging out. Yeah.
I've never been on a battleship, so I might have to check that out. Do you guys have any national parks nearby or state parks or?
We have Fort Monroe, which is a military installation over in Hampton. Hampton Roads in general is not a huge area. One of the things that I think is unique about Norfolk is you get that a little bit of that urban feel with the suburban also, but it's small enough to where it does feel like its own little community. Over in Virginia Beach, we have a state park, and there's a couple in Virginia Beach, one called False Cape State Park, which is basically in the corner next to North Carolina. And the only way to get to it is actually to travel by foot or by tram I think it's about 4 or 5 miles to get into the park. And it's a very remote. If you're into hiking, that's a great spot. That's not technically in Norfolk, but it's maybe a 30-minute drive.
That's not bad. That's
you can walk along. You can walk along the trails there. You can go out on the beach. They have a big pine forest. You can walk around. They also have primitive camping. And then we have First Landing State Park as well, which is also in Virginia Beach, but very near to Norfolk. We have a lot of trails there. There's some beautiful Spanish moss trees back there, and that's on part of the Chesapeake as well. If you have an RV, they have RV camping there as well.
Okay. Yeah. So camping, hiking, beach, obviously. So
the beach, surfing, sailing, boating, fishing. I think one of the signatures of Norfolk is that it really does feel like a coastal town. Feels you get a little salt in
Yeah.
the spirit of the city.
That's nice. I know a lot of people really they look for that salt, like you said.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's why I'm here. I love it. I have a sailboat I sail, so
sweet.
yeah, I really enjoy it here. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Norfolk sounds like a really, really cool place for those who love the water and just love history, and also those who are into the arts. Because you had mentioned, a couple of those places where they have open mic nights and painting and stuff like that. And then, of course, you have the urban feel for the entertainment and the suburban areas for some quieter living. So, yeah, MJ, this was great. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share your knowledge of Norfolk with us. And I learned something new today. I think the rest of us did as well.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.